Hey, this is Eric from Cafe Watercolor. Hope you are doing good. So today we are going to do sort of a bonus video. So this week I've been taking a break because my day job is a little bit more busy, and on top of that there's just a lot of things going on out there that's just kind of hard to find a positive energy to start doing some painting. It's a dark time. It's the dark time for the US and the people in it. There's a lot of pain and anger, and I'm sure you heard a lot about it already. It's all over the news and other videos, so I'm not going to go through them again. But I hope that you are well, and I hope you stay positive and optimistic. And as we go through this dark time together, I hope that we all have more compassion and love towards one another. So this painting is actually a live stream recording. This is a private live stream though. I was doing that for a group in my workplace, and we are making video games, so I thought to do a video game scene. And this is Animal Crossing. It's a very popular video game lately, especially since the pandemic where a lot of people can only stay home. This game become very popular, and especially this is a very cute and kind and peaceful game, so people can kind of escape into this island with cute animals and stuff. So this raccoon twin, they are brothers. They are called Timmy and Tommy. I don't know which one is which. They never really specify, but they are twins and they're very cute. So this painting is mostly based on the amiibo figure that you see on the left, but I changed a few things. So instead of like a round base, I changed it into like a block base, but it's kind of like a diorama. I put a tree behind them and going to also do some clouds and simple background like that. I changed one of the face of the brother, so one is smiling and holding that little orange flag. So I start with the background. So this painting is going to be a little bit different from things that I usually do. I usually just do portraits and sceneries and things like that. So fan art, and especially something cute and cartoonish like these, is not something that I usually do, but I thought it would be fun to try a little bit different stuff. So I did a first wash and I use a clean dry brush to lift some of the paint so that it has some simple clouds. And now I'm just painting my first wash. So the tree and the background, the wash is still a little bit wet, so there might be a little bit of bloom, but I don't really mind that. This is the first wash, so a little bit of bloom here and there is fine. We can always separate them later with a darker tone. So now I am mixing the skin tone, well, more like the fur tone for the raccoon. So I'll start with the light tone, and then I'm also pre-mixing some other colors such as grass. So after I pre-mix a little bit of color, I start to clean up the pencil line and start my first wash on Timmy and Tommy. So I just paint them all over. So the only place I really need to leave it white is the eye. So the white of the eye. But because I make one of the brother have his eyes closed like the smiley face, so I actually don't need to leave it white. So I'm painting some pink for the ear. And then I thought I just finish the whole wash. We don't need to leave the white for the tummy area. And then I start to give it the first layer of color on the apron. So you can see the right one is a little bit bleed into the skin tone. And I think that is fine. Again, the first wash is all about just the color of the light, and we can always come back to it and start to define it a little bit more, give it a little bit more dark later. So I'm giving it some grass for them to stand on. So this block is going to be like a grass top and with some dirt underneath. So there we go, we have some dirt So it's kind of like a dirt block with grass on top. In the first wash, I don't worry about them color blending into each other. Painting the flag. I leave a few white, but I'm not trying to get all the details in. It's a very small painting, so I don't want to leave super tiny detail that's just going to be a pain. So after the first wash is done and it's dry, I start to do the second wash. So it's time to do a little bit more color for the fur. So this brown color, just paint those in, and now I will need to leave out some lighter tones. But the eye area, because it's going to be covered up with even darker color, I can paint them over. But again, be careful not to paint into the white of the eyes. And you can see from the left one, I start to leave a little bit of the light. So I will soften some of the edge and leave some light, so it gives a little bit sense of lighting and direction. Just make them to feel a little bit more three-dimensional. So now before it is completely dry, I actually start to paint in the nose and the hand. And the reason I want to do that wet on wet is that if you look at the figure on the left, the nose and the hands, the paws actually, they have a transition from the dark to light. So if I paint that wet onto wet, it's going to give me a soft edge. So that's going to look very similar to their original design. And now I'm painting the ear. The ear is a lot darker as well, so I can paint that in, use the tip of my brush. So once the dark is in, all of a sudden you start to have a full value range. This gives us a good idea what's the rest of the value that we need to fill in. So now I am doing the eye area, so the value is much darker. And I need to paint around the eye shape. So this part is a little bit of pain because it is so small and I really need to use the tip of my brush. So I use a dry brush to lift some of the paint on the top, so just to help to give it a little bit more sense of lighting. So I want this to have a similar lighting to the amiibo figure to the left. I actually went to Photoshop and paint over the figure a little bit because the original lighting is so soft. The form is not reading as clearly. So I added a little bit more shadow just to make the whole thing reads a little bit more three-dimensional. And especially that I am doing a painting, so I need to show 3D on a two-dimensional surface. So lighting becomes very, very important. So same thing, I leave a little bit of light on the top left. So I start to do the iris. So this feels quite different to do because everything needs to be a little bit cleaner. If I'm doing landscape or even portrait, I can be a little bit looser. But if I go too loose on this one, things might look like a mess. And I kind of want to still maintain that nice, clean graphic look for my painting that's very similar to the video game, but just use watercolor to interpret that. So now I am painting the shadow value. I soften the edge slightly, but as I mentioned before, when you try to soften edges, don't try to rub around too much. Try to soften it within 1 to 2 strokes, and that should be good enough. If you need to keep rubbing on it, it might end up looking dirty. So I'm painting a darker value on the apron. They are wearing blue apron. So the painting is really small, so you see me using my tip a lot. I do need a lot of control, so that's what I have to do. So the brothers are pretty much done. We see some nice solid form, and now it's time to paint in the background. or the surrounding just to make it a little bit more complete. So I paint like a little bush behind one of the brother just to cover some white space, and I also give them some cast shadow. Add a little bit more volume to the grass so it feels like it's covered on top of this dirt block. And now I'm also painting the dark side of this block. So now it starts to look three-dimensional because we have a light side and a dark side. Adding a little bit of the shadow, the occluded shadow from the grass, a little bit of texture on the side of the block. So about finishing touches now. A very simple flower, just paint a single color in it. So now it's time for me to finish the tree behind. So the tree, I want to stay a little bit more loose, so just a couple very simple dark shape just to give the tree a little bit more form. So if you look at the screenshot, their tree is very stylized and very simple. It's kind of like street scoop ice cream. So it's kind of like a street sphere. So just follow that form and get the light and the dark in, and it should look pretty decent. Finishing up the tree trunk. And just a little bit more final touches. And there we have it. Hope you liked this video. Again, not something that I usually do, but I had a lot of fun doing it. Hope this little cute painting brightens up your day. Something a little bit more lighthearted, something that we need right now. Hope you stay safe and healthy. Next week, I have a new video for you, so stay tuned on that. If this is your first time, welcome. Please like and subscribe. I am Eric from Cafe Watercolor. See you next week.